Welcome to the Black Etc. podcast, a podcast about how ideas and culture spread amongst Black Americans, especially outside mass media. I'm your host, Ian Youssef. My guest today is Marcus Pinn, who's a writer and film critic, podcaster, and musician. He writes film analysis over at his website, Pinnland Empire, where he's known for posts comparing images from multiple films to show how certain images directors have were influenced by earlier films. He's also one of the hosts of the Zebras in America podcast, which also has great film analysis and interviews. I spoke to Marcus about historical efforts to define the Black film canon and how it's effectively a modern pursuit, given that people didn't have access to a lot of the films and given that there weren't that many until well into the film industry. We talked about the approach of mainstream media to defining the Black film canon and also the more popular grassroots efforts to define Black film classics amongst Black folks. We also discussed just the general groupthink and sameness about popular, critically acclaimed Black films, and two critics in particular who depart from the norm for very different reasons, Angelica, Jade, Bastién, and Armond. I discussed with Marcus also the implications of representation being the modern core of Black film canon building efforts or canon building efforts in general over the last generation. We spoke about some really great elder Black filmmakers who just do not have the kind of support to make movies that they should. So Charles Burnett, Wendell B Harris Jr., Julie Dash. There's one part of the discussion I really liked when we talked about the importance of having balanced tastes. So not just all art house, not just all lowbrow, but kind of a mix. And we got into a discussion about, is it possible for a bad movie to be good, bad movies, that kind of thing. And I thought that was pretty fun. There's a part at the end when I normally wrap up the discussion where we just went off on another tangent, right? We spoke about Charles Lane, the filmmaker. We spoke about Bill Duke, the actor and filmmaker. I also enjoyed that part. I thought this was an excellent discussion, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Today I'm here with film critic, writer, podcaster, musician, Marcus Pinn. He writes at Pinnland Empire. His podcast is Zebras in America, and I found him through social media, where he's known for doing side-by-side comparisons of images and GIFs from films to show their influences. Welcome, Marcus. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
What were some of the first efforts to define the Black film canon?
For me or in general?
In general.
You know, it seemed a more organic thing. It was just like things that regularly played in households. I grew up in the 80s and 90s as a kid and a teenager. You could just meet another family or another person, Black person from a different part of the country, but they know to quote a line from Jason's lyric, or they know who Mario Van Peebles and Melvin Van Peebles is. I think it was just an unorganic, unintentional effort.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, it sounds crazy to say now, but, you know, even in the, obviously, 60s and 70s, but even the 80s and 90s, there weren't that many options. Like, if a movie came out, a lot of people saw the same thing. If something came on television, even with cable, there still weren't that many channels. Everybody saw the same thing. So I think there's this innate thing, and I certainly grew up in this household myself with my parents, and I saw it in other things where if you're just flipping through the channel and you just see a Black person on TV, you just kind of stop and be like, hey, what is this about? Right. And I think that's how a lot of stuff came about at first. Like, you're flipping through, it's like, oh, it's a movie with Black people. What is this? Mm-hmm. And then you start to kind of, there was like an unofficial list. Now, I think over the years with going from MySpace to Facebook to Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, there has been more concerted yet not well-researched efforts from different outlets. It could be Essence, could be BET, could be some other Black film publication that gets a collection of folks like comedians, writers, whoever, and they all list their movies, and then they kind of, what were the top 25 picks, and they pick the 25 out of all the movies that were listed. So I think we went from a more organic, unwritten, unofficial list to more like, let's get a big group of people together that are Black artists in some different way and get them, and let's get a list like that. And then it speaks for other people, which, to be honest, sometimes as a Black person, I don't always agree with. I'm still funny on unwritten Black rules because, to be honest, I think there's a lot of commonalities, because I think at the end of the day, if you're Black and you live in America, just maybe one generation, but 2 or 3, everything kind of goes back to the South to some degree. But sometimes generalizing Black things can be a little dangerous. But then at the same time, there are some general, like my dad grew up in New York City, my mom's from South Carolina, and when they met, they found out, oh, we were raised similarly, and they just thought it was so different.
In your research, have you come across early efforts at defining the Black film canons, like Oscar Micheaux, in the 40s, 50s, before the modern era, I guess before our time?
Well, no and no. In terms of like early stuff, there weren't really lists like that. And also, maybe the few times there were, to be fair, only in recent years has Oscar Micheaux stuff been like as easily accessible. Like if you were a Black film fan, say in 1988, you couldn't just get an Oscar Micheaux film from the video store. Maybe if you were lucky enough and you had a good library, maybe they had 1 or 2 of his like more popular films, but I think that's just it too. I think, especially the 80s, there were a lot of independent films from classic directors that you couldn't just access.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of Black film canon lists, maybe 30 years ago, were a little basic, but understandably basic, like movies that were easily accessible. Whereas, like,
right,
you couldn't just see Killer of Sheep or Chameleon Street or something like that in 1994. Like, you just couldn't,
Yeah.
So I think that was a big part of it, which is a positive. Now, there are, I wince when I say important, but there are important films that you could just see now that are so much easier. But then the pushback is, well, how much of an impact did these movies have?
Mm-hmm.
They're great, they're masterpieces, but then it's like, if people aren't familiar, do they belong on a list? Or it's nice to put it on a list so it can draw attention, you know what I'm saying? So it's a little complicated, I think.
Yeah. A while back, you wrote a piece for OK Player called 10 Rare Movies That Belong in the Black Film Canon. So you are clearly on one side of that divide, right? You are advocating for less popular films to be included. So again, what are some of the pros and cons of including rarer films?
Well, first of all, I'll start off with a con that list, I had slightly more rare films on that list, but the editor was like, I get it. Like, I'm not trying to be negative, but like, these have to be, I'm using air quotes, rare movies that can still be accessed, maybe through YouTube, maybe through Vimeo, or now through the Criterion channel or Tubi, stuff like that. So I'm very proud of that because I've been reading OK Player since it was just Questlove's blog back when I was in college.
Yeah, me too.
Even that list is compromised.
Yeah.
But understandably compromised. I do think that, especially in the case of Oscar Micheaux, it's not about him being questionably like the first Black filmmaker. He's also one of the just first filmmakers, period. I mean, we're talking 1918, 1919, and I think he really started making movies, so there were only so many filmmakers, period. So even if folks aren't familiar with Oscar Micheaux, there's things in his movies, there's techniques in his movies, there's subject matter in his movies that were never done before. And just off of that, whether people have seen them or not, it does deserve to be on the list. And when you put something like that on a prominent list, people are going to be like, what is this? I don't know what this is. Oh, well, let me search it out. There's that hope,
Yeah.
For a film in 1920 to show like middle and upper class Black folks in the Black community, I think there's Black people that aren't even aware that stuff existed,
Right.
And so we know that probably white people didn't think that. I think a lot of that's the American school system. But flashbacks, dream sequences, all that stuff happened in Oscar Micheaux's 1920-something films. So I think off of that, whether people know it or not, I think it should go on the list, And then again, it doesn't hurt to every once in a while be like, this movie is a masterpiece. Let's just put it on the list. And again, hopefully it'll draw some attention and people seek it out.
Right.
I think those lists they get caught up between, and I think people in general, between masterpiece and classic. I think classic has a semi-rigid set of rules. And one of the biggest thing is impact and accessibility. This is across the board. I don't think you can call anything a classic if it didn't really affect anything or anyone, right? However, You could record a piece of music, draw something that is a masterpiece in your bedroom that no one will ever see, but it's still a masterpiece.
So classic implies canonization already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously there's a huge Venn diagram crossover between classic and masterpiece. I would hope most or all are masterpieces, but also classic, if it's going to be sort of a defining, like a canon thing, you know?
Yeah. How do the Black film canons that are created by and from Black media compare to those from mainstream media outlets?
Unfortunately, it's not that similar. And that's what kind of bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
If Variety or IndieWire or anything like that, 25 most important Black films, you already know anywhere from like a quarter to a third of it is just going to be Spike Lee movies.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember the list. It came out a few years ago. And folks like W. Kamau Bell was one of the folks. Who's the guy that wrote CB4? Nelson George. It was really intelligent, and just that list wasn't that different too. It was just like a ton of Spike Lee movies, no mention of Chameleon Street, or like, I don't even think Killer Sheep was on the list. But even that, Charles Burnett unfortunately suffers the same thing that like Julie Dash suffers, where not so much anymore because To Sleep with Anger's on Criterion and stuff like that. But for a while, it was just like, you would have thought Killer Sheep was the only thing that Charles Burnett did, as opposed to like 50-something years of filmmaking. Yeah. Same with Julie Dash. I think Julie Dash, her filmography suffers because Daughters of the Dust was her only like theatrical movie. Mm-hmm. But since the early 90s, she's made a ton of features that just like made for HBO, made for Showtime, made for television. She's done a lot of music videos. She's done a lot of short films. But there's this thing, years ago, publications would say it's the only movie she's ever made. And it's like, but that's literally just like not true.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to Chameleon Street, I think that is certainly an important film canon movie, a Black film canon movie. And even though it was really hard to see or find back in the day, I can speak firsthand, it had a mystique about it because famously it was sampled on Black Star's album at the start of Brown Skin Lady. And I remember between high school and college, and I went to a historically Black college, people would be like, what is that from? Whose voice is that?
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like Samuel L. Jackson, but... And then finally you find out through someone, it's this movie called Chameleon Street, and then you search for it, but like, where would you find it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that was exactly my process.
Yeah.
I was trying to find that sample, and I found it eventually, but I didn't get to see the movie until years later.
Right, yeah.
Which older, once celebrated works have been pushed out to make room for newer classics, I guess, in modern attempts to define the canon?
Well, how old are we talking?
Let's go a little before your time. So let's say from 60s on.
And this is funny, man. I think a movie like Dutchman, which is based on a play, but with all the it's not so much just Get Out, but Get Out has infected, I said that both positively and negatively, has infected so much of the Black horror genre, Black psychological thriller, where essentially so many of these movies boil down to like, watch out for the white people. And it's kind of like, well, Dutchman did that in the 60s. I think that movie came out in 65 or 66. And you would think with the popularity of Get Out, someone would mention Dutchman and it'd be like, oh, this is kind of a similar movie. It's like the dangers or the psychological fear of being a Black man around a white woman, especially at that time, you know what I mean? Like in the 60s, right? So that's a movie that I feel kind of gets a little left out. And even, the star of the movie, Al Freeman, guy, he played Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. Like, it has actual actors in the movie. So, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of sameness to opinion about serious or important mainstream Black movies.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I would say amongst general critics, but Black critics as well. Why do you think that is?
One, I just think, and I would never just put this all on Black people. I just think when it comes to culture, it's different. It's like there's like a groupthink. It just kind of is what it is. Now, the difference with Black folks and straying from groupthink is this fear. And the older I get, I have zero fear of this. Now, there's a frustration I still have where, like, if you're not part of the go along, get along gang, you get called, it's that classic sellout, you hate yourself, self-hater, coon, which is a term that has zero meaning now because everything and nothing means coon. But I think there's that to just kind of be like not like us, to kind of fall in that category where it's just like your Blackness is questioned by other Black people. I think people have a fear of that. And I think the perfect example of that is Armond White.
I was going to bring him up.
I think politically and socially, he's a guy that I just dislike. He actually blocked me on Twitter years ago because I'll tell you why. This is one of my claims to fame. When he wrote about Get Out, it was clear that he either didn't actually watch the movie or he didn't pay attention. Because he said, and I screenshotted it, and then I screenshotted when he edited it. In his piece on Get Out, which he hated, he just doesn't like Jordan Peele. But he said, at the start of the movie, we see a mysterious figure walking through a white neighborhood and he gets kidnapped. But we never see him again. And it's like, wait, what? What do you mean we never see him again?
Right.
It's the most pivotal part. We do see Lakeith. What are you talking about? And then he blocked me. And then luckily, I have other alt accounts on Twitter where I tweet other stuff. So I saw that he updated it. And I was like, I got you. But at the same time, as much as I don't dislike Armond White when it comes to movies. I dislike the fact that this is a separate thing. I think that Black conservatives today think that they're so victimized and they think they're this new thing where, like, technically Blacks, at least socially, Black folks have always been, like, conservative to a degree, There's always been a conservativeness to a lot of Black folks, whether it be church, how you dress, maybe not so much anymore. But anyway, he's a guy who just is not afraid. And as much as I don't like certain things about him, you have to respect the fact that, oh, you're supposed to like Moonlight. Oh, you're supposed to like Black Klansman. You're supposed to like Get Out. You're supposed to like all this stuff. Well, I actually don't. And to be fair, it's not like he writes 2 paragraphs completely insulting the movie. He writes 1,000 to 2,000 words on why he thought it didn't work. So it's not like he's being childish about his disliking. I just think, and I understand at a certain point when it's like, this is almost no exaggeration, every single popular Black film, whether indie, art house, or mainstream, he just doesn't like, then yes, it starts to feel like, is this genuine or are you just bored?
Yeah.
And I think that Armond White is a perfect example sometimes of how smart, bored people act. When you're intelligent and you're bored, you can get a little destructive. And I think he's like that. But at the end of the day, you'll never hear me disrespect Armond White's knowledge of film, his understanding of the language of film, outside of making the hugest error in writing about Get Out. But besides that, I think you need someone like him.
Yes, I agree.
Are you familiar with, who's the writer? Angelica Jade?
Of course, I was going to bring her up too.
She's another one who I think she sometimes unjustly gets, I've heard people, she's the female Armond White. And it's like, to be fair, I think she likes more stuff than Armond White does. But she's another one where, like, there's certain movies you're supposed to like, and she doesn't like it. But she doesn't just tweet, I didn't like it. Like, she writes out her thoughts in long form. I think as long as you give a film, if you're going to express outwardly to the public you didn't like something, at least say why. And she does more than say why. She's another one. She'll write 1,000, 2,000, 2,500 words on something. So
I think those are 2 great examples, right?
Yeah.
My problem with Armond White is the politics.
Same. Well, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And not that he's conservative. It's just how he's using his position in response to his audience. So some of it, I feel like, although he is knowledgeable clearly, I feel like a lot of it is not sincere when it comes to Black movies. I feel like he's playing a role.
Yeah.
And then he'll say all this stuff, which you have a right to, about these Black movies. And then he'll say, like, Soul Man in the 80s is a classic. It's like, come on, Armond.
No, I know. Or,
Norbit, yeah.
He championed Norbit. You know what I mean? It's like, all right. It goes back to what I was saying. It's like, you're too smart for this. I know what you're doing.
Right.
But at the same time, it's one of those things, technically you can't prove it, you know, so it's like he can always fall back on that.
And I feel like Angelica J. Bastién, her biggest issue was she criticized Beyonce.
No, you don't do that.
The same thing happened, I think, with Bell Hooks before she died, right? Is that both of them are critiquing, I would say, Black liberal orthodoxy, and they kind of get stuff for that. Yeah, it's funny. I was going to bring up those exact 2 critics.
Yeah. You know, I have to go to directly to National Review to find Armond White stuff because, like I said, he blocked my main account. And now, I kind of want to go and be like, hey, man, well, I guess there's no point because it's like I still politically, I don't even think he believes. It's similar to Vincent Gallo. I don't think Vincent Gallo is this hardcore Republican conservative that he claims to be because nothing about him, his art, his work says that. I think it's another case of like he just resents his audience.
Yeah.
So you see that a lot in rap music specifically too, where it's like you have, especially in underground hip hop, there's a Black artist who grew up in a Black community, makes a certain type of music that, maybe predominantly non-Black hip hop fans like, And then they're just like, no, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted other Black people to like it. And then they kind of lash out at their fans. And then they have no fans now, because Black folks already weren't listening to you. And now the non-Black fans feel a little alienated or insulted because you do that. And now you don't have really much of a career now. So
one thing I appreciate about you and your criticism is that unlike a lot of smart film critics, you're definitely not a snob.
Oh, thank you.
You like Van Damme movies.
Of course.
You're a wrestling fan, all of that kind of stuff.
Side note, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but if you should check out the Raven documentary. It's called Nevermore, The Raven Effect, about the wrestler Raven and his quiet impact on professional wrestling. It's really good. It's still up on the main page on Pinnland Empire. It's one of the more recent things I wrote about.
Oh, thank you. I'll try and find that one.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I think to just have balance in anything. But if we're sticking on movies, if like all you watch is Adam Sandler movies, it's like, I don't know about that. But if all you watch is Michael Haneke, I don't think over time I don't think you can be a fully happy person. I think that stuff affects you, especially Haneke. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, but you got to take a break from him sometimes and watch Kickboxer or Lionheart or a good Scott Adkins movie or a good Michael Jai White direct-to-video movie. Like that stuff is, the plots may be stale and even the acting may not be great. Like I think that fight choreography is also an art, and being that Michael Jai White is legit, Scott Adkins is legit, seeing those guys go at it and fight on screen, it's like a dance almost. Yeah. I mean, those two guys have been in so many movies together because they're really close friends, so I like that kind of stuff.
This gets to another question. What is your take on good, bad movies? Do you think a bad movie can be good?
Maybe. I mean, this is one of those like anything can mean anything things. I think that a bad movie can be genuinely enjoyed. But like personally, if you enjoy it, I don't know if it's bad. I think in my 20s, I got really caught up in this movie so bad it's good, whether it's like Birdemic or The Room and stuff like that. But also, I'm a fan of certain movies that I think people claim to love, but it's sort of in a cynical way. But like movies like Clifford, I just think that movie's legitimately funny. But unfortunately, most people have like a smirk on their face about the movie rather than smirking at what's going on in the movie, which is very funny. It's a 40-year-old man playing a 10-year-old boy. Just that premise alone is funny. And Martin Short is funny. Yeah. And I think that Charles Grodin is a good straight man. So I guess maybe, my older age, I almost don't subscribe to that guilty pleasure thing, which essentially is what you're kind of asking. I think if you like something, you just like it, Yeah. So maybe a bad movie can be good, but then that opens the door for like, well, what's bad? And going back to, well, if you like it, is it bad? Do you like bad things? And then I think the whole thing about liking bad, schlocky things, to me, is a little disingenuous because it's like, it just starts to get confusing. It's like, do you like this or not? And I think personally for me, I'm into a lot of artsy films and experimental music, but at the end of the day, I have a very logical approach to things. I'm very literal minded. So sometimes, especially now with the rise of it's not just Letterboxd, but the type of reviews on Letterboxd that get highlighted, it starts to feel like, did you like this or not? It's like, this is the best movie ever. And then you write about it and you're just making fun of it. So it's like, it seems like you don't like it. Just say you don't like it. It's okay. Yeah.
There's gray area for me.
Always.
I wouldn't use good. I use enjoyable.
Right.
There are movies that are, my wife and I have a thing where we watch bad movies and a lot of them are extremely enjoyable to us. So like there's Cuba Gooding did one, Murder of Crows.
Okay.
That one is one of our favorites. It's definitely not good,
Yeah.
but it's extremely enjoyable. On the fence about the Denzel movie Deja Vu. It's well made by Tony Scott, but the plot is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of in a gray area for me, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. My wife and I are like, see, but at least you just think films with actually accomplished actors. Like for me, it gets to like, my wife and I go in periods where we like to watch like the Lifetime movies, like the murder Lifetime movies specifically. Now those are, and it's like, you could still say, well, it's just your opinion, but it's like from the stale acting to the weird camera work to the line delivery, like you can say that those movies are bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's so clear we're out in the open. We are laughing at these movies from start to finish. We're not going, oh my God, this is so good. It's like, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing with Black Tubi movies. I really enjoy a number of those.
I see clips on various forms of social media. I haven't made the plunge to watch one yet. I'm curious to do so. But outside of the original content, Tubi's got such a great library of like good movies.
It does, yeah.
People are sleeping on it. And I think because the association with the original programming, people to this day still don't know that there's good stuff on Tubi, like lots of good stuff. Even Criterion movies are on Tubi. You got to sit through the commercials, but still.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking of Tubi, so I have a theory that basically all of the streaming black, not all, a good portion of the streaming black movies on Tubi and such are children of one of three films. Toi, the 90s, like black erotic.
Oh, that. Oh, see, I've seen that. I know that. Yeah. There's a sequel, isn't there?
There's multiple sequels.
Oh, see, I never saw this. Oh, I didn't know that.
I haven't either, but I know that they exist. I Got the Hookup. That's the Master P one, right?
But see, that I saw that. That was in the theater, though. Yeah, yeah.
That was in the theater, yeah. And then Jay-Z Streets is Watching. I feel like those three categories, and the erotic film, the hood comedy, and like the hood crime movie, I feel like the Tubi movies that are made now, or the ones that, a lot of the ones that end up on Tubi, are children of one of those three.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think are the implications of modern canon building efforts focusing a lot on representation nowadays?
Are we talking representation in general, or I assume like with blackness?
In general, right? So I feel like they're using canon building efforts as correctives. These countries weren't included. Women weren't included. Queer creators weren't included. These regions weren't included. This class of people, you know? So like that seems to be the organizing principle for a lot of modern black canon building efforts. Yeah. And I was just wondering, what do you think the implications of that are?
I don't know. I think representation is kind of killing art in general. You know what I mean?
I think I do, but can you say more?
I think now more than ever, it's not just critics, but I think viewers are like, I didn't see myself in this movie, therefore it's not good. I think a lot of things come down to that. And I think studios, directors, writers are so panicked that, especially, it's highlighted on Netflix a lot, but movies in general, to the point now where any demographic becomes a checklist, which is inauthentic.
Mm-hmm. I think beyond that, it's not even just the simple checklist aspect. It's that if I don't identify with this character, even if they look like me, I have a problem with it. Just recently, just yesterday, I was seeing people posting the Love and Basketball, right? The final scene where, spoiler alert, the character is a woman. She's playing her love of her life for her heart, and he beats her, and she's totally humiliated, right? Yeah. He dunks on her. And then there's a lot of people saying like, oh, this movie's horrible because this woman humiliated herself and made a bad choice that is not affirming me or her identity. The point is not to agree with everything a character does. I thought we were supposed to like flawed characters who are human and do things that are not necessarily the greatest, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned Chameleon Street and Killer of Sheep. You've actually interviewed Wendell B Harris Jr., Charles Burnett.
Twice.
Yeah. So legends of black film. And you've also interviewed newer voices like Mtume Gant and Shaka King. What insights have you gained from those interviews?
Well, at a certain point, it's difficult for anyone, but I think the first on the chopping block, when you get to a certain age, it's just difficult for older black filmmakers to get a film made. You can say that about anyone, but like, I don't want to speak for the man, but I've gotten to know him a little bit and interviewed him twice. It seems like Charles Burnett wants to make a movie. He doesn't want to teach film. It's not that he doesn't want to teach film. It's like, I guess, but it's like, I'd rather be making movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, he actually said that. I don't know if it was the first or second appearance, but he in so many words, he said that. And, you know, Wendell B Harris, it's a little more complicated with him. But no matter what, though, the mind that made Chameleon Street should be sitting on 10 or 15 films at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody that makes that movie just has that one. And, you know, he didn't, you know, well, the story he said this, he wanted to make essentially his version of, like, he said what would have been compared to Caligula. And it's like, who would have touched that movie? Like, that movie itself was kind of a disaster, but.
From a black director?
Exactly. You know? Yeah. But even, you know what? I take that back, though, too, man. Well, not take it back. It's not just the legends, but like my buddy Shaka, my good friend Mtume.
Yeah.
even they have difficulties. It's like at this point, Shaka King, his projection was like Sundance winning to Academy Award nominated. Well, actually, no. Judas and the Black Messiah won an Academy Award, one of the big ones, actually. And his work is still sporadic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird to me, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, with Mtume, and he knows this, his movies are challenging, intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And Mtume's favorite movie, it's not just his favorite movies. I think a lot of the movies that Mtume came up on that he loves are challenging. And I think his thought process is, oh, these are some challenging, interesting in a good way movies. They got made. Someone put it out. I want to do that. And he is doing that. But he gets a lot more pushback. And I think films from the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, it was easier to be a little different. But nowadays, it goes back to, I make this parallel. I think Jordan Peele, specifically Get Out, has affected Black cinema in a negative way. But I love Jordan Peele and I love Get Out. It reminds me of, it's like the scene in Hollywood Shuffle. There was a time when it was all about Eddie Murphy,
mm-hmm.
where there's that nightmare scene where it's like, can you be more like Eddie Murphy? And it's nowadays, it seems like Black films, like, can it be more like Get Out?
Yeah.
I recently watched this movie, The Woman in the Yard. I finally got around to watching because it was free to watch now on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't think it's anything phenomenal, I was trying to explain to people, hey, at least it's a step forward, because this movie has nothing to do with the white boogeyman, has nothing to do with Get Out, has nothing to do with any iteration of A Sunken Place. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the cast is all Black. There's no white person to be scared of. So while the movie itself may be like whatever, at least we finally got something that's not, you know, Ma or Tyrell, or I forgot the name of the Regina Hall movie it's like Get Out at an Ivy League college. Like, it's not one of those kind of movies.
Yeah. Now we get to the questions that I ask everybody. What songs got people on the dance floor when you were going out dancing at your peak?
So I never went out dancing. I played the dancing music until I just couldn't do it anymore. So in high school, let's see, when I was really into DJing, I remember Nori, what was this? Or it's called Super Thug.
Super Thug, yeah.
But that was a big deal. Then by the time I got to Hampton, Cash Money was really running stuff. Rough Riders was still a thing, like Swiss Beats. Jay-Z, like at that point, you know, Jay-Z was kind of really running things. Contrary to what Hip Hop Twitter will have you believe, when Reasonable Doubt came out, Jay-Z was not an immediate in that like greatest conversation. He wasn't. But unfortunately, but because of who he is now, you go back and people think that from 1996 on, Jay-Z was always in the conversation, and he just wasn't. And my thing is, when people say you weren't outside, it's like I've DJed on 2 different radio stations in 2 different parts of the country. I've DJed white fraternity parties, Black fraternity parties. Like I've DJed clubs, lounge. It wasn't. It was like Nas, Biggie, Tupac. Then DMX came. Like there was a steady increase. Like Jay-Z always was consistent, but he wasn't in the best conversation early on. He just wasn't.
What's a Black cultural work that's a classic but is underappreciated? Any genre, any medium. Doesn't have to be just movies. Could be music, books, plays, whatever.
Underappreciated. So just to be clear, are we saying something that's known and underappreciated, or maybe something people don't know about, which makes it underappreciated?
Either way.
Yeah,
either way.
I want to get the title right. What's the book? Because I guess I kind of want to relate it to film. It's Toms, Bucks, Coons, Mulattoes, Mammies.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's an important book, and I think it needs to be put in a time capsule and preserved, because while I do think that the author, who is a Black man, by the way, I think he does a little talking down to the audience. Like, just from the intro, it's clearly like, I know film more than you. Because that book, it's not written for people like you or I. Like, that book is made for someone like my mom or like my coworker. Because the whole premise of the book is, it's about, well, we have these Black superstars now. We've got Eddie Murphy, Whoopi Goldberg, Samuel L. Jackson, but it's like people sort of disrespect these Stepin Fetchits and just kind of whittle them down to like, well, they were just being stereotypes and embarrassing us. And it's like, well, not exactly true. Like, I get it. The bug-eyed thing is it is embarrassing, but like Stepin Fetchit was a talented guy. You know, it might pain some to hear that or say it, but it's true. And I think all he was trying to do was that it didn't just start with Paul Robeson, then go to Sidney Poitier, then we got the Black superstar. I think he was just trying to say that, look, a lot of the embarrassing mushmouth sort of pickaninny caricature portrayed by actual Black people, we try to like shit on it. And trust me, I understand why. I would never try to convince somebody otherwise. But unfortunately, that stuff had to happen for us to get to where we are today, depending on how you look at it. You know what I'm saying? And I do think that's such a kind of radical approach, you know? I wish more people would read that book and learn it.
And the fact is, even nowadays, a lot of the dignified roles and characters are somewhat stereotypical as well.
Yeah.
What particular dish did your family make that you looked forward to the most, growing up or right now?
My mother, she was a cook. My dad didn't cook anything, but sweet potato pie, I always look forward to. Until I became a diabetic and I couldn't eat it. Although my mom made a pretty good sugar-free sweet potato pie. It was very good, but when compared to like the real one, it's just not good. But I could name like 20 dishes by mom. But sweet potato pie, my friends growing up, she would make separate ones for different families, you know?
Yeah. Well, Marcus Pinn, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your voice. You've turned me on to so many movies that I didn't know existed.
Thank you.
Where can people find you and your work?
Well, if you just go to, Pinnlandempire.com, that's the main hub because that's my personal blog. And for reasons I don't want to get specifically into, but for the last 6 months, I've just kind of been chilling, essentially. So I've had a lot of time to just write about a lot of new releases. So the theme of from July to now has just been a lot of new releases and my thoughts on those, from me really not liking one battle after another to Eddington not completely working, but that's a movie I still respect, to, other stuff. And speaking of, Black film canon, I've had time to kind of update and prepare for 2026. I've got my thoughts. I rewatched Sugar Hill recently.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole crux of what I'm trying to say is that I think that movie got unjustly grouped in as just like sort of a ghetto classic, like a hood classic, where it's like, no, I think that's a legitimate mob movie, that a good second-tier mob movie that should be mentioned alongside maybe Donnie Brasco, Carlito's Way. Yeah. But I think because it's the same writer as New Jack City, it's the same actor that's in New Jack City, and a lot of similar scenes, I think it just got grouped in. But it is its own movie. And then I finally want to get some of my thoughts out on Sidewalk Stories, which is a brilliant. It's interesting to call a remake brilliant, but this is one of those rare things where it's a remake. It's a shot-for-shot remake, but it's so different.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Charles Lane, he remade or reimagined Charlie Chaplin's The Kid.
Yeah.
And I got about, I don't know, anywhere from 30 to 40 examples of like other silent films that the movie kind of took from, borrowed from, whatever, and a couple of thoughts too. I mean, for those that don't know, the director of The Artist was a big champion of that movie. When he was at Cannes, when he was at the Oscar, like when he was on his press run and they were asking him, why you make a silent movie? He made a point to talk about Charles Lane and made a point to talk about Sidewalk Stories, to the point where I think that played a big part in the sort of update and reissue of, there's a really good Sidewalk Stories Blu-ray that's out. And in the special features, you get Charles Lane's student film, which is also it's also a silent film.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like the groundwork for what would become Sidewalk Stories.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth buying. He's another guy, man, that just sort of, when he made his second film, True Identity, he sort of got caught up in a lot of politics. He made one more made-for-TV film in '94, and then he just stopped directing. He teaches, but True Identity was less about Charles Lane and more about the guy, Lenny Henry. They were trying to transition him to American audiences. So
Lenny Henry, the British comedian.
Yeah. And he was very popular. He still is. He's very popular, but it's always about, crossing over to American audiences. And the movie just didn't do well. Although, to be fair, and I really wish I could see this, according to Charles Lane, that's the studio's, Charles Lane is also, he's the co-star of True Identity. He's Lenny Henry's friend in the movie. There's a different cut of the movie, and the studio just took it over and made their own movie. So, again, Charles Lane is a brilliant mind, and to make the movies he made, I have to think that True Identity under whatever his cut is decent.
Yeah.
There's even a nice Melvin Van Peebles cameo in the movie, because the movie plays into Watermelon Man.
Yeah.
It's sort of semi-reimagining. So, January and February at Pinnland Empire are already written. I just got to post stuff, but you can also get links to my outside stuff. I write for Alta Journal. It's funny. Anytime I write for like outside legit publications, it's always on Black film. So if you're listening, I have thoughts on things outside of Black film. But at the same time, I like that I'm someone that people go to interview Wendell B Harris, or to write about Hollywood Shuffle and have a unique perspective about Hollywood Shuffle, or the OK Play to reach out to write a list of 10 Black films. I still like it, but it'd be nice to write about other non-Black stuff. But if I'm here to write about Black films, I like to think I have a unique perspective. So I'll take that on, you know.
When you were talking about Charles Lane, for some reason, I just thought about Bill Duke.
Oh, sure.
You really sing the praises of Bill Duke. I'm a big fan of his work, as an actor, as a director as well.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about Bill Duke's work and career that you've been drawn to?
The fact that, you know, as a kid, it's like, oh, it's the guy from Predator, the guy from Commando, the guy from Car Wash. It's just an actor. But not just a great actor. Also his look. He's like a big, tall guy. He's got these eyes. He's very like, he just has a unique look. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of actors from the 70s and 80s, like I think nowadays actors don't look interesting. I'll say newer actors. Because, you know, guys like Steve Buscemi still exists, but he's also older. I'm talking about new up-and-coming actors that look different. Outside of, who's the guy that's in the Game of Thrones prequel? He's the bad guy in Morbius, the British actor.
I didn't see that.
Oh. Matt Smith.
Oh, okay.
He's someone, he looks weird, respectfully.
Yeah.
And then to come to find out that, like, wait, these are the movies he made?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, more, I hate the pigeonhole term of art house, but it's like a lot of his movies kind of fall in that category. I think if you're not familiar, especially my friends, most of my friends aren't like movie crazy. So like in the group chats, the common theme is like, oh, this movie isn't a black and white French film about a clown smoking a cigarette. Like that's like an ongoing joke in my group chats. Oh, Marcus won't like it. But I think art house has a really broad term. Also, you know, it's funny when you travel, like I've been all over Europe, and then you have friends and you come to find out that a movie that's considered art house in America is just a regular plain movie in the UK or in France or in Spain. It's just like you tell someone like that movie's revered, really? And they'll be like, it's okay, but you know what I'm saying? I love finding that kind of stuff out.
But Bill Duke also did Deep Cover.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite movies.
He did Sister Act 2, right? He did The Killing Floor, which is like, I only saw that probably at the beginning of the pandemic. That was my first time seeing that. But yeah.
For like a decade, I used to go to the Toronto Film Festival and cover that. But he did this movie called Dark Girls, which is really good. One of the biggest presence in that movie is Viola Davis. She's one of the main people that gets interviewed that they constantly go back to her. And it's funny because colorism is such a huge topic nowadays.
Yeah. Even
in film, especially, I think that the colorism topic is always about actresses. No one seems to care about the men part of it. It's always like Zazie Beetz and Zendaya are taking roles from yada, yada, yada. Like that's what it always comes down to. But it's interesting that Dark Girls never comes up in the conversation because that movie is really essentially just about that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's also not the easiest movie. I don't even know if it got distribution. I think I was just lucky enough to see it. A lot of Toronto films don't always get distribution, or when they do, they just kind of release quietly and you never know about it. But
right.
To me, his direct counterpart is Tom Noonan. Are you familiar with Tom Noonan?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the villain in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie,
Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
But he's really tall. I took a picture. There's very few people that are taller than me in pictures, but he's also Frankenstein and Monster Squad. He's a character actor.
Yes.
But as a director, his movies are totally art house. You have to see this. Have you ever seen What Happened Was?
Yes, I have actually.
Yeah, well, he also stars in it, but that movie is just phenomenal. All of his movies. Well, he's only directed three movies, but he's just a different person, and I think that fascinates me when you can be this like kind of cartoonish character actor that always plays like a crazy villain, but then as a director, you're just a different person. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Marcus Pinn, thanks so much for joining me. I love this discussion. Hopefully we can do it again.
Anytime, just let me know.
A special thanks goes out to my guest, Marcus Pinn. You can find his work at the website pinnlandempire.com. That's with 2 N's. And at his podcast, Zebras in America. One lesson I took away from the discussion is Marcus's great distinction between masterpieces and classics. The concept makes sense, but I'd never heard it so succinctly put. Masterpieces adhere to the work itself, so works can be great regardless of who's seen it, whereas classics require some measure of community input and canonization. So I really like that formulation. And the work for folks in Black culture moving forward is to try to make more of our masterpieces classics by exposing them, by talking about them, popularizing them. So that is a really huge takeaway for me. Second takeaway is the importance of contrary ideas, not for the sake of being contrarian, but the fact is everybody doesn't like the same things, even things that are widely well regarded. I think it's good to have dissenting opinion. When too many people think the same thing, that kind of hides something in many cases. So yeah, contrary opinions are needed to avoid stale groupthink. And then the final takeaway, it's been one for multiple episodes, is that our elders have definite wisdom to share and often don't get the platform and opportunity to because of the way our culture values youth, or I should say does not value age generally, and definitely does not value Black voices. So it's vital for us to support not only the past work of our elders, but to try to get them opportunities in the present, even when it seems like they don't fit into the current climate. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please like, rate, review, comment, share on whatever platform you use to listen. Until next time.